All right, week 2 waivers, wide receivers. We're also going to throw in tight ends. Puka Nacua, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, was highly targeted with 15 targets. Yeah, we all know Cooper Kupp's out, so he's on IR. He's going to miss at least 3 more weeks, but I wouldn't even bet on him coming back first week out of IR. We have no idea. It didn't look good, him seeing a second specialist or whatever it was. There's going to be a lot of weeks of value there, and he's a startable asset already. 15 targets. I already trust it. He's a 5th-round rookie, so the team seems to like him, and we heard a lot of good things out of camp. And to get 10 catches for 119 yards, didn't get a touchdown, but he's going to have that touchdown upside if he's going to get targeted that heavily. Even when Cooper Kupp comes back, I could see him slotting into the number 2 role. If Matthew Stafford likes him, that's how it's going to be, most likely. He seems to like him so far, so I'm shooting for the upside there. Of the guys that are less than 50% owned, I'm targeting him first for receivers. Also for the Rams is Tutu Atwell. He's more so until Cooper Kupp comes back to me. I don't really see him as having value when Kupp comes back, but he also grabbed 6 catches for 119 yards on 8 targets. Not bad. I mean, he's a guy you could flex in a PPR. So yeah, Rams receivers, I think there's some value there, especially if you have a couple of flexes in your league. Before we talk about Jakobi Meyers giving away this signed Keenan Allen jersey, all you have to do to enter is subscribe and leave a comment. So that's free. You can win the signed jersey. Only 2% of you guys are subscribed. But for the 2% who helped us hit 500, thank you. And that's just saying thanks.
All right. That leads us up to Jakobi Meyers, which he probably is not available in your league as he's sitting over 50% on. But we wanted to mention him just in case. He had a monster game, pulling in 10 targets, 9 catches, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looks to be legit. He is a legit wide receiver too, with Devontae Adams taking all the main attention from the defense away. Jakobi Meyers is able to feast, and with all the jokes that have been made about Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, he's still a good startable fantasy quarterback to get your receivers the ball. So he's gonna not even dink and dunk, 9 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns against a tough Denver defense. You gotta love that. He did leave with a concussion, so monitor that. He may not play this week, but regardless, if he's available, he is my number 1 pickup as he has the most season-long value of any of these guys.
If you need to start this week, I think it's a little too risky for me, just given the injury. But yeah, season-long, he would be the number 1 priority. All right, Kendrick Bourne of the New England Patriots. 11 targets, ran the most routes on the Patriots, and had 91% of snaps. That's really good. And Mac Jones slanged that ball, boy. He threw 53, 54 times, something like that. And then he got 2 touchdowns to top it off. He did have a kind of a blunder during that game where the throw was slightly behind him, but he definitely could caught it, and he tipped it up, and it was a pick 6. But the team kept going to him, and he didn't disappoint at the end of that game. So got it done for fantasy, and Juju was the concern. We thought Juju might be the number 1 guy, and Kendrick Bourne, their recent history hasn't shown a lot of passing volume on that offense, but if week 1 is any indication, you got to shoot for the upside there, hoping that Mac Jones can step into that next level and actually have some volume. And if he's the number 1 guy, I mean, you're going to want that number 1 option in that offense. And again, a good PPR pickup, only 2% owned, so he's absolutely going to be available for you.
So next up is Romeo Doubs. He's another guy that's teetering that line as he's about 45% owned. So he's available in roughly, 60% of your guys' league, 55, 60%. So he only played 48% of his team snaps. That is because he is coming back from nursing a hamstring injury. So we really didn't expect much from him, but he did he tied the team lead in targets and hauled in 2 touchdowns. So it seems like Jordan Love at least trusts him down near the red zone. He does have that chemistry with him. It could get murkier once Watson returns, but this Packers offense could be legit. And Jordan Love has looked like the real deal and has shown thus far that he is legit and capable of, stepping up into that Aaron Rodgers wake that he left last year. And it doesn't seem like this offense is really going to take that big of a step back. So if you want to pick up Romeo Doubs and play him this week, I'm fine with that. But maybe temper a little bit of expectations once the full receivers are back and just see kind of how it plays out. But he looks to be like an NFL receiver that you can play.
Yeah, I mean, they did play the Bears, so that wasn't a great defense. However, I mean, they got up to a lead and they didn't really need the pass catchers after that. And like you said, only half of snaps. It was announced before the game he was going to be on a pitch count. So if he plays 100% of the snaps, you throw in Christian Watson, helped him move the ball. Even if it's a tough defense, I mean, I think they're going to be able to get it done.
Yep.
You're going to want pieces of that offense. All right. Next up is Zay Jones. Getting into like kind of the murkier territory where don't love these players, but they should be rostered. 38% rostered for Zay Jones. That should probably go up after what we saw this week. He played more snaps than Christian Kirk and even more than Calvin Ridley, so he's going to be on the field. He saw 89% of the snaps and ran 32 routes to Christian Kirk's 24. We thought for sure Christian Kirk would be that number 2 guy, especially given his contract. He's getting paid a lot of money, but they don't care. They know that Zay Jones is their guy, and he's probably going to do what he did last year. Go look at what he did last year. In a PPR format, he was pretty reliable to get you like 8 targets. So he seems to be doing that again. Got 7 targets this week and a touchdown to add on it. I mean, I think he's a good like depth piece to your team if you just need a receiver to fill in the future flex weeks. Just and you had a player dud that you want to drop. He's a decent depth add to me.
Yep. All right, and that brings us up to our last guy, which is another deep league sleeper type pickup, which is Rashid Shaheed. He's only rostered in about 13% of leagues, so he's available virtually everywhere for the majority of the people. He played 54% of the snaps. He clearly looked to be third on the depth chart in receivers, but they did seem to scheme him open using specific route combinations like wheel routes and goes and just trying to scheme him open on kind of some gadgety plays because he is a speedster. He does great things with balls in his hands. He had 6 targets. He had 5 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown, and he looked like an important piece of the offense. Kamara will come back, which could affect his total targets, but the type of targets he's receiving, such as these deep targets and everything, I think those will stay the same. And if we've known anything from watching the Saints the past 3 years, Michael Thomas could get injured at literally any moment. So if he gets injured and maybe Shaheed steps into that number 2 role behind Olave, you could have a weekly starter there. But to me, for now, he's just a deeper league guy to stash on your bench. And if you need a boom or bust flex for a week, or maybe you have some guys injured, you can plug Rashid Shaheed in and him provide you some spark and upside to your team.
Unless it's a super deep league, I don't think I'm spending pretty much any FAAB on him. But we aren't, we got the receivers out there. Which ones are you going to spend FAAB on and how much? So, like you said, Jakobi Meyers was your favorite. How much FAAB are you thinking for him?
So, assuming we have a $100 budget, obviously depends on team makeup. But if you need a receiver, say you had Cooper Kupp go down and you're missing Jerry Jeudy or Christian Watson,
Deontay Johnson.
Like Deontay Johnson just got hurt.
Yeah.
Something of that nature. I would spend probably 15 to 18% on Jakobi. In his career, he has shown to be a good player. Like, he just is. He is a good NFL receiver. So if this offense stays fluent like this, then I think he could be a weekly starter. It's not someone I want to force in my lineup per se, but I mean, if he's getting 10 targets a game, or even if that comes down a smidge to where he's getting 8 targets a game, like that's still a good amount of targets for a player. So I would sit comfortably around the 15 to like 18% of my budget mark if I'm a receiver desperate team.
Yeah, another player that I'm willing to spend up on if you need to start now is Puka Nacua. 15 targets, I mean, you would love to add that to your flex if you're missing, like I said, if Deontay Johnson's out for you or whoever. Obviously, we're going to be dealing with injury, and players don't work out that you draft. You never know. So if you need a depth piece, I'm willing to spend for him. Like, he could go. I mean, he could get as little as 3 weeks as the first wide receiver on that team, but he could get. I mean, we don't know if Cooper Kupp's going to come back at all. Like, we have no idea on Cooper Kupp. So for me, I'm going to pretend like I'm going to care about my next few weeks because you need to win those weeks in order to get in the playoffs. So I'm willing to spend up for Puka. I mean, if you'd instantly put him in your starting lineup, I'd be willing to spend like 30% on him.
I'm probably not that high, but definitely if you need a receiver, I mean, he's by far at least got the biggest target share of those available for most leagues. So if you need it, I mean, you got to get your man. All right, so that leads us into tight ends. So tight end was kind of a crazy week as literally all the high drafted guys were either hurt or completely busted, and you had a bunch of random tight ends that did really well. So leading off for us is going to be rookie Jake Ferguson. He's 23% owned, so he's available in 3/4 of the leagues out there. So Jake Ferguson was a highly touted rookie for the Dallas Cowboys, and he came out and had 7 targets, and probably could have seen more had the Cowboys not absolutely obliterated the Giants. He had all 3 of the team's end zone targets from Dak, so he was 3 for 3. He had all the end zone targets, which you love to see. You love to see when tight ends get the end zone targets because honestly, most tight ends aren't going to have value from catches and yards alone. Most tight ends are only going to bring in value when they score the touchdowns. So it's good to see that he at least got the targets down there. If you look at the advanced metrics, such as yards per target, yards per route run, etc., this game was better than Dalton Schultz ever was, like in his 4-year career with the Cowboys, which is crazy. A rookie in his first game is already putting up better advanced metrics than Dalton Schultz was. But we saw Schultz was a viable fantasy tight end with Dak for years, so surely Ferguson can too. And he did have 2 unfortunate drops, but it was raining during the game. Ball's heavier, slicker, and it's his first game. He has jitters. But it was encouraging to see Dak continue to target him after the drops and show that they still had trust in him. So if he's going to average 7 targets a game as a tight end, you have to pick this guy up.
Yeah, they're going to be able to move the ball. They didn't need him this game, but I imagine not every game's going to look like that for the Cowboys. Yeah. Next up, Hunter Henry. He was the tight end 1 on the week, I believe. He had a touchdown, and if you got a touchdown, you were pretty much in the top 5 of tight ends this week. Really bad week, like you said. He's about 7% owned. He's probably going to be the number 1 guy off the board for people. So, in my opinion, you're probably not going to get him because I'm not willing to blow like an early waiver priority or spend any real amount of FAAB for him just because it's a tight end and it's a crapshoot. So I'm really not spending up on tight end at all. But he is one of the better options on the waiver just because, again, that offense, that passing offense should be pretty good. He made a really clutch 4th down catch to keep the game alive for them. And he looked pretty good on the field. So, again, it's tight end. It's a crapshoot, but, you could do worse. So I'm chasing the upside there.
All right, that leads us up next with Hayden Hurst. He is your tight end 2 so far in week 1. As we said, if you scored a touchdown, you're probably a top 5 tight end this week. That's just how the position works. So he's only rostered in 13% of leagues, so basically available everywhere. He led the team with 7 targets. He had 5 receptions, 41 yards, and a touchdown, which is not a bad stat line at all. You'd take that from your tight end every single week if you could get it. Bryce Young looked to lean on him pretty early and often. They should trail a lot as the Panthers aren't really that great of a team. They're not horrible, but they're not great. And with a rookie quarterback, you should expect some ups and downs. They usually rely on bigger targets such as tight ends. So it would not surprise me at all if you see the 7 targets to kind of stagnate there. If he averages between 5 to 8 targets a game, I would not be shocked. Touchdowns will probably be sporadic, but if you need a tight end that's just going to at least get targets, you could do worse than Hayden Hurst. So.
Yeah. And last up, Luke Musgrave for the Packers. Again, another rookie, drafted pretty early in the 2nd round, though. I think he has a lot of promise. He's owned in 29% of leagues. Didn't have a good week, though. Didn't get a touchdown, and that's pretty much why. So he's owned in 29%. He might be available. If he's not, he's very likely to get dropped. Somebody's going to go pick up one of those guys who got a touchdown, chase it, and you're going to be able to scoop up a guy on a good offense. Jordan Love has a lot of upside there, and he's a promising rookie. So, and he ran the most routes of any pass catcher this week. Christian Watson wasn't there, obviously, and Doubs is on a pitch count, and that's why. But, I mean, that says something that he could be the number 3 pass-catching option when both of those guys are healthy. And if anything, those guys should be able to get him moving down the field, and there should be touchdown opportunities for Musgrave. It's a deeper league play or a stash to me. But I'm totally, if you have room on the bench, I like stashing him because there's not a lot of upside at the tight end position. For all these tight ends, though, my recommendation is that you don't spend a lot of FAAB. if somebody's there that we didn't mention that's like super highly owned that should be there, like Laporta, I would be willing to spend a little bit on Laporta because he looked pretty good. So do a quick check for that. He's owned in about 54% of leagues. But in general, I'm really not spending a waiver priority. I would just rather wait and see who makes it to me.
Yeah, I agree. Not spending up for really any of these guys.
Because realistically, the guys who scored a touchdown this week, it's going to be somebody else next week, and then you're going to have dropped them or somebody else has dropped them. So just pick up who you can. And if we start to see a trend, obviously, then we might be willing to spend. But for now, it's week 1. Don't overreact.
Yep, agreed.
All right, that does it for our waivers, receivers, and tight ends. Again, we're giving away the signed Keenan Allen jersey. All you got to do is subscribe and leave a comment to be entered to win for free. Thank you guys for tuning in. We've been the Fantasy Bros, and we're out.